1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Parfait. C'est bon? Yes.
Bonjour, hello. Je suis Boris Proulx, journaliste au Devoir et je serai le modérateur de cette conférence. Bienvenue au Théâtre national de la presse. Welcome to this press conference. Sorry for the little delay. We had technical issues and it's on our side. So thank you very much, ministers, for your great patience. Today we have three ministers on the stage. The ministers will deliver short remarks, after which we'll go for the question period, first in person and then on Zoom. Les ministres vont faire de courtes déclarations et ensuite nous allons passer à la période de questions, d'abord dans la salle puis sur Zoom. Si vous êtes sur Zoom en ce moment et vous participez à ce point de presse, je vous invite à utiliser la fonction lever la main n'importe quand durant la conférence de presse et nous passerons à vous ensuite. So if you're attending on Zoom, please use the raise hand function at any point and I'll hand you over the mic after the press conference. On that, ministers, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur Proulx. Et merci et bonjour à tout le monde. Hello to all. And I know what I know is a very busy Friday. Ces dernières semaines, nous avons tous vécu des moments parfois pénibles, parfois brutaux et surtout choquants. For all the noise pulsating north, the U.S. administration's repeated contradictions have brought more questions than answers. Questions about possible job effects, the effect of tariffs on those jobs and employers, the certainty of paychecks, and whether Canadians will still have work in a week's time, much less a month. We have heard those concerns and obviously feel compelled to act upon them. These are difficult times, perilous ones even, but they are also clarifying times. Canadians are right to feel confused. The federal government, and indeed governments at all levels in Canada, have watched the U.S. administration's chaotic messaging with great consternation and bewilderment. Mais nous sommes unis face à une menace et coordonnés, très coordonnés, dans notre réponse. On en est même très fiers. First, this trade war was about securing the border and ending drug smuggling. Then it was about migration and the flow of people going south. And then, puzzlingly, it was about American banks or the auto sector. As we say, where I come from, du n'importe quoi. The Prime Minister, the Finance Minister, and several of my cabinet colleagues, including the two who joined me here today, have outlined our retaliatory plan. Today, I'm outlining the mitigation portion of our plan and the steps we are taking as a government to protect our workers and see them through the crisis, come hell or high water. Aujourd'hui, je présente le volet atténuation de notre plan et les mesures que nous prenons en tant que gouvernement pour protéger nos travailleurs et leur permettre de traverser cette crise, quoi qu'il arrive. We may be a big country, but we are a united one. In this moment of maximum peril, the likes we have never seen from a friend, an ally, no less, the federal government must stand tall and stand by fellow Canadians. And stand by we will. Because in Canada, we support one another. In Canada, we are home to a strong social safety net with the battle scars to prove its mettle. In Canada, we protect our workers. And in Canada, we have tried and tested tools to get our people through the toughest of crises. And we will not hesitate to use them again. On a des cordres à notre arc, we have arrows in our quiver, and we will not hesitate to use them. Au Canada, nous disposons d'outils éprouvés pour aider nos travailleurs à surmonter les crises les plus difficiles, et nous n'hésiterons pas à les utiliser à nouveau. The auto worker in Michigan, the steel worker in Pennsylvania, the farm worker in Iowa or Alabama, they can't count on that same support, the way Canadian workers can and will. So today, under my authority as Minister of Employment, Workforce Development and Labor, I'm announcing new temporary work-sharing measures that will come into effect today. J'annonce aujourd'hui que de nouvelles mesures temporaires pour le programme de travail partagé entreront en vigueur à partir d'aujourd'hui. These new measures will help more employers and workers access the support they need to address the harm they have already suffered and the harm we foresee based on our current assessment. These measures will provide stability to our sectors at a time of great unrest and uncertainty. And more than anything else, they will help keep more workers in their jobs, more businesses running, and more factory floors humming. The work-sharing program is not a well-known program, but it is a vital one, and one that has repeatedly proven its utility and value and one that has been accessed, I must say, more frequently of late. The program allows employers to keep workers on their payroll in their jobs without resorting to layoffs. It does this by temporarily reducing employee working hours during slower periods so that workers can stay on the books until normalcy returns, at which point they would return to work full-time. Le programme de travail partagé permet aux employeurs de conserver plus de travailleurs sur leur liste de paye sans avoir recours à des licenciements. Pour y parvenir, il réduit temporairement les heures de travail des employés pendant des périodes creuses, afin qu'ils puissent rester dans l'entreprise jusqu'à ce que la solution revienne à la normale et qu'ils reprennent alors le travail à temps plein. This allows workers to keep their jobs and the benefits that come with them. Employment insurance work-sharing benefits would then cover most or part of the lost wages brought on by reduced working hours. Since 2019, work-sharing has helped employers right across Canada in a variety of sectors and helped them avoid laying off as many as 100,000 people. That's 100,000 more people adding to our economy, 100,000 families, 100,000 people not having to worry about where their next meal or how to pay the bills will come from if they were unable to make next month's rent or any other household expenditures. And that's 100,000 fewer Canadians losing their job. So this program works. Et pour aider davantage d'entreprises et travailleurs à bénéficier de ce programme, nous apportons des changements afin d'élargir des types d'employeurs et de travailleurs qui peuvent bénéficier du programme de travail partagé. Employers in the not-for-profit and charitable sectors are now eligible, as are employees working in cyclical or seasonal jobs. We are also expanding the maximum length of agreements from 38 weeks up to 76 weeks. We are moving ahead with these changes despite yesterday's pause, because businesses and workers need assurances right now. We know the uncertainty that is out there. We know that uncertainty in many ways is worse than the proposals themselves, because businesses are frozen in their investment decisions and other issues. So we want to make sure that they have the comfort knowing that we have this backstop in place. Many are already using the work-sharing program in anticipation of more threats and more uncertainty. So we're taking a calibrated response to address the uncertainty and damage this trade war is bringing and the risks it is creating for our businesses, our workers, and all Canadians. Nous prenons donc des mesures calibrées pour faire face à l'incertitude et aux dommages causés par cette guerre commerciale et aux risques qu'elle crée pour nos entreprises, nos travailleurs et tous les Canadiens. C'est un début de notre programme d'aide aux travailleurs. Nous aurons une réponse taillée sur mesure pour les travailleurs canadiens avec les pouvoirs que nous avons lorsque nous aurons une meilleure clarté de ces tarifs qui changent, semble-t-il, sans cesse, mais aussi des dommages qu'ils causent. Cette clarté, nous l'aurons peut-être demain, la semaine prochaine, difficile à dire. Mais une chose est certaine, nous ne laisserons pas les travailleurs et les entreprises canadiens derrière. Canadians can rest assured that we will match every move, check every change, attack every allegation, and react vigorously to any and all encroachments on Canada and our business community and our jobs. We may not know what our American neighbors will do, nor what new tale they will tell, but we are ready. We are united and we're strong. In the face of an unprecedented breach of our most cherished relationship and a clear shot at our sovereignty, we will not retreat, nor should we. We will rally to defend our values, our solidarity, our sovereignty, and all hardworking Canadians, because Canada is free, Canada is sovereign, and Canada is forever. Les Canadiens sont aujourd'hui plus proches les uns des autres qu'ils ne l'étaient il y a 6 semaines. Canadians today are even closer than they were 6 weeks ago. I spent the last 3 months meeting with provinces and territories, touring the working towns, the union halls and businesses right across this country. These meetings confirmed that closeness. We all agree this will be tough, but we will get through this. We will prevail, and we will prosper. Nous l'avons fait en 2016, nous l'avons fait lors des ralentissements précédents, et nous le ferons à nouveau aujourd'hui. So let us be even better, let us be bolder, and let us be even braver. Vive le Canada. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. And keep those elbows up, my friends. Over to my colleague, Mary Ng.
Well, thank you very much, Stephen, and bonjour tout le monde, and good afternoon, everyone. You have seen yesterday that our government had worked successfully to get the tariffs suspended for CUSMA compliant goods to be exported to the United States for 30 days. And while we must continue to work to mitigate these unjustified tariffs from the United States, our government is ready to support Canadian businesses. So today, I'm very pleased to announce that we are launching a new trade impact program through Export Development Canada. And that is a $5 billion additional facility to help Canadian businesses tackle the challenges imposed on them by these U.S. tariffs. Ce programme sera disponible de maintenant et offre du soutien aux exportateurs canadiens éligibles alors qu'ils naviguent l'incertitude du marché. Here's how EDC will help. First, they're going to provide working capital solutions to help companies manage existing contracts and to address the potential decreases in U.S. sales. Second, EDC's credit insurance will help protect companies from losses in the event of non-payment from their foreign buyer when shipping goods or providing services internationally. And this will help our businesses to continue to have the confidence to continue to export during these uncertain times. Third, EDC's foreign exchange facility guarantee will help businesses manage the risks that will arise from currency fluctuations, allowing them to stabilize costs and protect their profit margins from adverse currency movements. Finally, EDC's financing solutions will help Canadian companies scale up their operations outside of Canada and help them increase their capacity for trade in different markets or to acquire a foreign company. While our trade relationship with the United States remains important, we must also continue the work that we have been doing since 2015, and that is to diversify into markets beyond the United States. We have 15 free trade agreements where Canadian companies have access to over 65% of the world's economy across over 50 countries. And this work that they are now looking to do to grow and to compete and to thrive in international markets is something we certainly are encouraging and know that their government is helping them do that. I want to speak for a moment to our small and medium-sized businesses who have told us in particular that they are vulnerable and disproportionately impacted by these tariffs. So the program that we are standing up here through EDC is really designed to also prioritize the needs of small and medium-sized businesses, providing tailored supports to them so that they can continue to maintain their competitiveness in these challenging times. And beyond the new Trade Impact Program, EDC's full suite of services continues to be available for Canadian exporters and businesses. This is export insurance, it's financing, it's business connections into those markets, ongoing market intelligence and insights to help them navigate through this time. I also want to take the opportunity on behalf of our colleague, Minister Macaulay, the Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food, to make an announcement on his behalf. Farm Credit Canada is prepared to offer $1 billion in new lending. This significant initiative is aimed to help alleviate the financial challenges facing our agriculture and food industry. And in these times of uncertainty, it's vital to make sure that we continue to support our agricultural community so that they can continue to weather these challenges and to continue to be the successful, vibrant sector that they are here in Canada. So the Farm Credit Canada's program is launching the Trade Disruption Customer Support Program, and this new program will offer relief to both existing customers and new applicants who meet the lending criteria. Features will include access to additional credit line of up to $500,000, along with new term loans specifically designed to help businesses navigate through this particularly challenging time. And to the FCC Farm Credit Canada customers, there's also an option to defer the principal payments for up to 12 months on current loans, another measure that will help ease some of the financial pressure and for our agriculture businesses to ensure that they can continue to weather through this. These steps underscore our government's resolve to make sure that our businesses continue to be resilient. and to ensure that all of our businesses in all sectors, and here in particular in the agriculture and food industry, and our farmers and our producers continue to contribute so enormously as they do to our economy, and they really are so important to our trusted food supply chain. And as Minister McKinnon has said, we know that this is a time of profound change. We know that there are challenges ahead, but we also know that Canadians can meet them at this time. And when we come together as Canadians and we support one another, we are capable of doing extraordinary things, even in uncertain times. There aren't limits to what we can achieve. You're seeing that in Canadians and how together they are. And I think the spirit of unity and determination is what is going to hold Canada through this. And our government and we here are going to continue to do the work to support our businesses, support our industries, support our workers, and our communities from coast to coast to coast. Merci beaucoup. And now I'm going to hand it over to Minister Valdez.
Steve. Thank you, Steve and Mary. Good afternoon, everyone. Small businesses are the backbone of Canada's economy. Elles représentent 98% de nos entreprises, créant près de la moitié des emplois du secteur privé et sont à l'origine d'un tiers de notre production économique. En représentement, elles sont la cible d'attaques insensées. Over the past few weeks, I've been meeting with small businesses from across the country, and they shared their frustrations with me. The canceled orders, the supply chain disruptions, and the uncertainty. Our government has listened, and we are here to take additional action. For businesses targeted by tariffs, our government is enabling the Business Development Bank of Canada to provide $500 million to help you adapt to the new reality, to strengthen your operations, and diversify your markets. This support includes favorable loans between $100,000 and $2 million. These loans will be at a preferred interest rate at BDC's base rate minus 2%. This will reduce borrowing costs when businesses need it the most. We are also ensuring flexible repayment terms with up to 12 months of deferred principal payments to provide relief and stability. And we are expanding BDC's expert advisory services so businesses can strengthen their financial and operational strategies, equipping them with the tools that they need to adapt and grow. To Canadian small businesses, you've built this country's economy. You keep our communities strong, and we will always have your back for as long as it takes. And to all Canadians, there's no better time to choose Canada, to shop local, and to support Canadian small businesses. C'est le Canada de faire des achats locaux et de le soutenir les entreprises canadiennes. Because when we invest in our fellow Canadians, we are building a stronger and more resilient economy for everyone. Thank you and merci.
Merci, thank you. On va maintenant passer à la portion questions et réponses. Please limit yourself to a short answer, a short question and short answer, so we can pass as many as we can. On va commencer par Maxime Muard, Radio-Canada.
Oui, bonjour, M. McKinnon. Ici. C'est bon. Je voulais savoir, vous avez mentionné l'imprévisibilité qui est liée à l'administration américaine en ce moment. Pendant combien de temps vous attendez-vous à devoir garder ce type d'aide-là en place?
Le programme de partage d'emploi est en vigueur aujourd'hui et nous allons élargir, évidemment, rendre plus souple sa portée. La mesure sera en place aussi longtemps que nous devons l'avoir en place. Je crois que c'est une décision qu'on peut prendre de mois en mois, mais évidemment, les ententes qui seront conclues avec les entreprises, les travailleurs et tout ça vont continuer. Donc, si on rentre dans le programme sous les conditions assouplies, bon, on va pouvoir profiter de ces conditions-là jusqu'au bout de son entente de partage d'emploi.
Et en suivi, vous nous aviez dit dans les dernières semaines que vous attendiez de voir concrètement des impacts des tarifs avant de mettre ce type d'aide-là en place. Est-ce que vous procédez à votre annonce aujourd'hui parce que vous voyez déjà des impacts concrets des tarifs?
Oui, moi je parle à bon nombre, mais je sais que mes deux collègues ici aussi ont jasé de ça tout à l'heure. on constate qu'il y a de l'incertitude qui plane. Des gens qui voulaient ou doivent prendre des décisions d'investissement, d'embauche, sont un peu figés, gelés. C'est très regrettable. On cherche, évidemment, on est sur leur bord et on cherche à vouloir clarifier la situation. La meilleure façon de faire ça, c'est de tenir bon à nos principes. Nous, notre position est très claire. Enlever les tarifs mal ficelés, mal considérés de la part des Américains. Nous avons imposé des contre-tarifs. Ils vont demeurer en place jusqu'à ce que les tarifs américains soient réduits. Et nous n'acceptons pas. C'est injustifiable. Donc, nous sommes solidaires avec nos entrepreneurs, nos employés, nos travailleurs. Mais l'incertitude qui plane, oui, effectivement, fait mal. Fait mal des deux côtés de la frontière aussi. Je note que les deux rapports d'emploi qui sont sortis ce matin, notamment aux États-Unis, ça démontre certaines faiblesses au sein de l'économie américaine. Notre position, c'est jouez pas avec le feu, là. Cette incertitude-là ronge dans la confiance des gens d'affaires et des travailleurs. Donc, on peut mettre fin à ça aujourd'hui et on devrait le faire.
Promit, Reuters.
Good afternoon, Minister, and thank you for this conference. I wanted to ask you that the current situation shows that from April 2, there will be tariffs, and in a big way. And that means that we could see widespread job losses, even after the support that you're providing. Will the government be open to providing some kind of a support in the form of what we did during the pandemic, where you were handing out checks to people who were losing jobs?
The first thing I want to say is, as bad as it would be, the imposition of across-the-board tariffs on Canadian exports, it would not be a COVID situation. So I want to be, it's hard to say reassuring, because it would not be a good situation, but it would be a different situation. And we believe that it would be a more slow-rolling economic impact. And so, therefore, our response to that would be as customized as our response was during the pandemic. So we have considered a number of measures, and when there is clarity about we don't accept that there should be any tariffs, but when there is clarity on some long-term decision on the imposition of tariffs or not, then we will, of course, respond with other measures.
Follow-up.
My next question is for Minister Ng. I know that it is difficult to actually diversify trade at a very, quickly. We have a dependence of almost 75% on US. But this is different times. These are unprecedented times, and we need to do things on a war footing. What are the steps are you taking, or your ministry is taking, to make sure that we diversify aggressively the trade that Canada has with global?
Well, thank you for that question. What I would say to Canadians is, thank goodness we've been doing a lot of work over the last 10 years, negotiating market access and really strong and excellent trade agreements all around the world. Today, we have access to over 65% of the world's economy. I have myself taken hundreds upon hundreds of Canadian businesses into those markets. I'm really pleased to say to Canadians that we set an ambitious goal in 2018. That ambitious goal was to increase our non-US exports by 50% by 2025. We are in 2025, and today we are well on our way to exceeding that target and that goal of diversifying away. Part of that is negotiating free trade agreements that give market access. Think about the European Union and think about the businesses that are now exporting and doing business in the EU, all the countries in the EU, from Germany to Spain to France to the Netherlands, they've all gone up. I know this because I meet with the European Union every year and we take stock of how well that trade agreement works. Think about on the other side of the Pacific, the CPTPP. These are countries that in that agreement make up 500 million customers. I have taken businesses into those markets from Japan to South Korea to Vietnam to Malaysia. I was just in Australia about 10 days ago. Hundreds of Canadian businesses looking to grow and expand into those markets. So that work has been, we have invested in that work, and businesses are really taking advantage of the growth into those markets. I often describe trade agreements as bridges. We've built the bridge. And we have also invested to help Canadian businesses walk across that bridge into those markets, but we certainly could be doing more. And I think Canadian businesses today are really looking at trade diversification in a way that they have not looked at before. And I have, over the course of these recent months, have been spending time with my colleagues around the world, in the European Union, with our CPTPP partners. And here's the thing that everyone says. We all must stand up and defend the international trading system. The rules-based system that has benefited our exporters and our trade to ensure that there is fair trade and free trade into our markets. And these U.S. tariffs that have been levied on Canada, let me just say, they are unjustified. They also violate the trade agreement that is CUSMA USMCA. They also violate the international trade agreement standards at the WTO, of which the United States was part of creating in the first instance. So Canada, in response to these unjustified tariffs, have filed both at USMCA, CUSMA, as well as the WTO. We did that at the same time that that these tariffs have been levied on Canada. But to answer your question on diversification, we should be doing more, but we certainly we have, and we certainly should be doing more.
I do need to catch a flight, so if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to speak with you in the coming days. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. We'll go to Marco, Hill Times.
A lot of some changes to the EI would be coming to make it more flexible and accessible. I see these changes are coming to the work share agreement. Is this it, or will there be any further changes to the EI? Waiting period, anything along those lines?
We've considered a series of measures, of course. Let me just say as firmly as I can, we will respond to economic conditions that are brought on by the unjustified imposition of tariffs. We have a series of measures we can roll out that I have the authority to roll out, and when this ball stops bouncing, we will, of course, be returning with other proposals.
And Mr. Ng, just about the complaints that Canada has raised to the WTO and through CUSMA, is there any sense that like these whole processes seem like they take forever in terms of finding judges to adjudicate these decisions? Can we expect anything to really come from these complaints that we're taking to these bodies?
Well, I think it's really important to stand up and defend the international rules-based system, and as I, spoke with the Director General at the WTO, we aren't the only country that is going to be doing exactly this. I mean, so as a rules-based country, I think you must do this. But at the same time, you're hearing from Minister McKinnon and myself and the government about a whole suite of things that we must do. So yes, we must file those challenges, and at the same time, we must be pragmatic about how it is that we support Canadians, and also be firm and impactful about a response on countermeasures that will, I hope, help the American people understand what this means and how it actually hurts their economies, their workers, and as if I were to speak to the American people, anybody who might be watching this, make an appeal about how these tariffs just make no sense to your economy, to your jobs.
Marina, CBC.
Hi there, Minister McKinnon. You said that work sharing is not really well known. Can you explain to us just a little more detail about how it works, what the federal government's role is here, if there's money involved, how much this will cost? Because I think a lot of Canadians will be listening to this and wondering how this impacts them.
EI program, it's paid for out of the EI fund. It consists of agreements with employers such that employees can reduce their hours spread the work across the same number of employees while compensating those employees through EI for lost time or lost wages. The duration, as I just outlined, will be longer. More organizations, more businesses, charitable organizations will be permitted to have access to these funds. Part of today is trying to help make this program better known. A number of businesses, as I mentioned, have been accessing it in recent weeks. We track that number very, very closely. And the other part of your question that I'm forgetting, did I leave anything out?
I was just wondering about costs, if this is something the federal government needs to put money into.
So it's funded by employer and employee contributions. The EI fund is. The costs will depend on duration, how long this goes on, and so on. So I don't want to really speculate on that. But
Can I just ask a quick clarifying? Employers can choose to be part of it. It's voluntarily?
absolutely,
Okay.
of course, yeah.
From a-
I did want to mention one other thing. Like what it also does is avoid employees being severed from their employer. So investments in training and onboarding and all of that for employees, but also their attachment to their workplace, that is conserved. So that's why this program is a win-win.
The Canadian Labour Congress, the NDP, are calling on changes to how EI works to make sure that more workers are covered and that they receive more money to pay for their costs. So why not make those kind of changes now?
Because, as I just mentioned, the ball seems to bounce every day. We have every intention of customizing response to tariffs or no tariffs, as the case may be from the United States. Our first duty is to make sure these tariffs do not get imposed on Canada. Of course, there are tariffs in effect today. We want them taken off. But should this prove to be an enduring situation, then you can absolutely expect that we would come with further measures to protect our workers.
Dylan Robertson, Canadian Press.
Hi, thanks for taking our questions. Minister Ng, I'm wondering if you've had any clarity in the past 12, 24, 48 hours on what the tariffs actually apply to right now. It seemed like there was a lack of clarity for the ministry. I'm wondering if you've had any recent updates and if you could share anything on that.
Sure. Thanks, Dylan. So CUSMA compliant, is something that we have been working to be sure that we understand, and of course that work is ongoing. But if you take a look at what we export today, and if you look at the CUSMA agreement, compliant essentially means that it is substantially produced in Canada. But you'll remember that this is an agreement that was negotiated with much optimism about how high standard and how good it is. And it is true. It is an excellent, excellent agreement that the president touted in his negotiation when he first negotiated this. And what does that mean? It means, because the president, and we often talk about workers and how important workers are. In USMCA CUSMA, there are high standards for workers. Goods that are made with those high standards for workers. Goods that are made with a regard for environmental standards. That is what CUSMA compliant is about. So today in Canada, it's about 40%. And you can, and the substantially produced in Canada is sort of tied to, the rules of origin. But what I would say, though, is that Canada, as a free trade country, and in our trade with the United States, virtually all of our exports are CUSMA eligible. But because we are a free trade country, and because the WTO's most favored nation status applies to the rest of that trade, businesses don't file paperwork to say it's CUSMA compliant. We just trade. We trade freely, openly, and have been doing so for a very long time. That would be sort of my best way of helping Canadians understand that compliant means that it is substantially produced in Canada and made with those high standards for labor and environment to which we negotiated in this agreement.
Follow-up, Dylan?
So what I take from that is that your understanding is that it's about 40% would fall under that basket, even though we're getting mixed messages from the Americans. That's what you believe to be the reality right now under what's tariffed, what's exempted. And just a follow-up question about the dairy comment. Right before this press conference, Donald Trump talked about 250% tariff on Canadian dairy as retaliation for his view of TRQs. I'm just wondering if you have any comment on dairy, and if you could just confirm that is your understanding of what is under the tariffs right now.
Well, we will endeavor to provide more clarity to Canadians because I think that's really important. And I want to maybe bring us to where I think it's really important, which is that our top priority is to work to get these tariffs removed. And we just must do that every single day. You have watched us do this every single day. That's what Canadians are expecting of us to do, and therefore that is the very top priority. With respect to dairy, I learned about it just as you said, just as I was walking into this press conference, and look, I mean, these tariffs, if imposed in that order of magnitude, is completely unjustified, and we'll have to understand what that actually really means. Having learned at it the same time you have, we'll have to go back and understand what that really means. But to Canadian businesses and our workers, we just need to keep doing the work, which is top one priority, and getting these tariffs removed.
Bill Global.
Hi. With this April 2 deadline looming, it seems quite likely that we could be in the middle of a federal election campaign. Could you explain what is your understanding of what you and your cabinet colleagues can and cannot do in response to whatever's coming from the United States during an election campaign?
So obviously, ministers remain ministers, election campaign or not, but there is, of course, a convention that major decisions must be deferred. That, in my interpretation, does not extend to emergencies. That's, in fact, why you would have that kind of continuity. But suffice to say, I think the large cleavage was perhaps identified this week. You had Mr. Poilievre committing to take all tariff revenue and plow it into broad-based tax cuts. You had others in the Liberal Party talking about protecting workers and protecting those businesses that are affected. So, that would be, I think, one of the great debates that would occur in a notional, hypothetical election campaign. But before going too far down that road, the Liberal Party will have a new leader this weekend, and that person will decide about the timing of an election. So I don't want to advance too far down the road of hypotheticals of what might occur during that election. But we'll be equipped to respond in all ways that are necessary and vital to Canada whenever that decision comes down.
This week, the NDP called for Parliament to be recalled to pass some kind of emergency package. I know you have some powers under the employment insurance law to do things by regulation, but some do require legislation. So can you explain where the line is? What can you do on your own versus what would require a parliamentary legislative change?
So I can, and we have considered many measures that could be as tailor-made to the situation as the EI fund can be, and I'm persuaded that we have all of the required powers under the Act that Parliament has granted me to be able to react to a situation such as a blanket imposition of tariffs in Canada. Further aid, Mary just outlined, and Rachie, significant supports to businesses, particularly vulnerable businesses. But a custom package, of course, would require a budget and budget proposals and a law, and that could come in any scenario really quickly after a return of Parliament.
Greg, Market News.
Hello. You know, if we get to the point of major retaliatory tariffs, how strongly would you look at recycling tariff revenue either to firms, or some provincial leaders have suggested they'd like to pocket some of that money for themselves or to workers?
Well, I think, again, I just outlined for Bill, I think the perhaps diverging views in terms of tariff revenues. I think it's fair to say that for our part, we believe that we must protect, and it is quite normal for us to believe that it would be the first order of business to protect those who were directly impacted, whether it be workers or sectors or businesses or regions that feel the pain directly resulting from the imposition of unjustified tariffs. So that's our basic position. With respect to, I don't find it helpful to spend a lot of time, however, thinking about how we might, distribute these revenues. We don't want these revenues. We want tariffs removed. We are a free trading country, and this tariff revenue is not a welcome development. We want these tariffs off, and we want them off because they will no longer be required to offset unjustified and illegal tariffs from the United States.
Secondly, ministers have said they don't want to escalate the dispute, but we're going to stand up, go blow for blow. You today have mentioned how feckless perhaps President Trump has been. If he's citing things like national security to levy tariffs on steel or other things, why isn't Canada going maverick? Why not threaten to cancel F-35s? Why not declare our supply of food and supply management and national security concern for ourselves? Why not suggest that we're no longer interested in seeing companies relist their headquarters in the United States?
Well, our position has always been we will react to proposals that are put on paper and communicated through the appropriate channels, not to musings or media lines that may change every day. So what you've seen us do is react specifically to what has been officially communicated to us, and we see that, of course, be lessened in the last few days. So, we Canadians, we're going to stand firm. We've imposed counter tariffs. They will stay in place until the tariffs in the U.S. are removed, and in fact, the $125 billion in additional tariffs that have been proposed will also stay in place until those are removed. And I think that has been a very clear, transparent, and firm way to deal with this situation.
I might just add a point to that. I mean, we have always said that in the planning, that everything is on the table. So in the planning and consideration of the work that we are doing as a federal government, along with the provinces and territories, of course, the planning is being done on a whole range, of considerations. But as Steve rightly says, we also want to be impactful, which I think this $30 billion immediately is, and $125 billion, an additional $125 billion, and so we are going to be ready, but our first priority really must remain on ensuring that these tariffs come off in the first instance.
Jérémy, CTV.
Good afternoon. Mr. Ng, given Trump's comments today about the dairy industry, the $5 billion announced today, do you feel now is enough? Is it something you'll be reassessing given the latest pressure from the U.S. president?
Well, today it's $5 billion for EDC to do a number of, to provide a range of supports from currency guarantees to insurance to working capital, which is what businesses are looking for to try to weather them through this, and then $1 billion through Farm Credit Canada. So $6 billion really today, and we will keep assessing the needs as the needs emerge. Today, this is a really important and very practical package because we know that this is what businesses have asked for, and therefore we are responding. In kind.
Will any of what was announced today be paid for through revenue from retaliatory tariffs at all?
In my case, no. There's the disposition of funds in the EI fund. There's a set procedure, of course, and so that is not contemplated.
Yeah, it isn't either on EDC and on FCC either.
Joanna, to Logic.
Taking my questions. This is Joanna Smith with The Logic. So first, Minister Ng, I just want to follow up on Dylan Roberts' question regarding the 40%. So 40%, you know, it matches closely to the 62% figure that the White House was sharing yesterday in terms of what they considered non-CUSMA compliant. I think there's a lack of clarity still for the rest of us about where these numbers are coming from. So can you share, first of all, any database, like what exactly is the 62% and then 40% obviously on the positive end coming from?
Let me just say this. I mean, virtually all of our product lines, all of them, are CUSMA eligible because of the WTO MFN status, as well as eligibility, as well as just CUSMA. CUSMA really means that it is substantially produced in Canada, and substantially produced in Canada that also have those high standards for labor, for workers, and for the environment. Businesses can indeed become CUSMA compliant. It does require, I mean, businesses don't do this today because we freely trade. So they don't have to file paperwork that demonstrates that their product, their good, is substantially produced in Canada. We are in the process of making sure and supporting Canadian businesses to do that work because we want our businesses to come out from under these tariffs. The work, as I say, and as we keep saying, the goal is to get them removed. But in the meantime, we are going to do this work to help our businesses, become CUSMA compliant. Virtually, like I said, virtually all our trade is CUSMA eligible. But you can imagine that today, if I have been, if I've been trading with the United States for decades upon decades, I'm not sort of saying, I'm not filing anything that says it is substantially produced in Canada. It is just what we have been doing through MFN and through the most favored nation status through WTO. But there are some products which would be known to all of us, like manufactured goods or a car part, for example. Those products, in the way that it moves across the border, has a process that actually deems them makes them CUSMA compliant because there is actual X percentage of this part is substantially Canadian, Canadian through the rules of origin. So there are some industry, some products and sectors that are that, and of that is the 40%. The rest of it just moves freely. I mean, back and forth, or it moves freely to the United States because of it being an MFN status, WTO, it's WTO MFN status. So it moves freely, tariff free into the United States. We are going to have to work now with Canadian businesses, and it really is sort of a bit of a questionnaire that says, yes, our product is substantially made in Canada, which of course it would be when we were exporting it to the United States, and that it meets these standards. But it certainly is a barrier to businesses that I certainly don't want us to be doing. I would rather us work together to get these tariffs removed. That doesn't help us. It doesn't help us. Help our businesses. And frankly, as I would say to the Americans, it doesn't help you. And I'll give you an example. I just talked to a business. I talked to a CEO yesterday, and the CEO said to me that 40% of what they buy comes from the United States. They buy from the United States. So 40% of what comes in, they buy on a 90-day cycle. So what he said to me yesterday is that 30 days, please, Minister, do everything you can to get these things off, because 30 days, does that mean now that I'm going to tell the American supplier, we're a great customer, that I'm going to tell the American supplier that I'm now going to decrease my order? And the reason I have to decrease my order is because it's now that much more expensive, and I can't anticipate or calculate what, what I'm going to put the order in for. Who loses in that instance? I'll tell you who loses. The American company. The American company that is selling to Canada, that is because we are a great customer. And remember, Canada is the largest customer to 36 American states. We buy more from America than Japan, China, Britain, and France combined. That is the size of our purchasing power. So if these tariffs are, well, not if, these tariffs are in, and it's going to impact those American businesses. And so our first priority has got to be getting these tariffs removed.
Thank you. I have another question for Minister McKinnon regarding the work sharing on EI. So obviously, both reducing the hours worked and drawing on EI would, I would assume, affect one eligibility to continue on EI in the event that they get laid off later down the road. So you talked about tools in the toolbox. Like, is that one of them, that to be further using of EI later?
So let me be clear. If you benefit from a work-sharing arrangement and are subsequently laid off, that does not affect your eligibility for, full eligibility for EI benefits. And sorry, what was your second question?
Well, yeah, just if I was right on that, which I guess I was not, whether that was something up for consideration. Yeah.
Well, and you heard me talk about a series of other measures that we would consider, depending, again, customizing it to the situation that we are ultimately faced with.
Il y a très peu de questions en ligne. On voit Émilie Bergeron de la presse canadienne. À vous la parole.
Oui, bonjour, Monsieur McKinnon. Les mesures totalisent 6 milliards de dollars. Comment vous avez fait l'équilibre dans ce qui est annoncé aujourd'hui avec la volonté que le gouvernement a dit avoir là, sur la responsabilité dans la gestion des finances publiques, de maintenir un ancrage fiscal
Tout à
au
fait.
niveau des dépenses?
Merci, Émilie. D'abord et avant tout, les mesures de partage d'emploi sont financées à même la Caisse de l'assurance-emploi, bien entendu, mais ça n'affecte en rien la possibilité, ou ça n'affecte en rien cette caisse-là et sa solvabilité dans l'avenir, et il y a des formules qui ajustent tout ça. Les mesures annoncées par mes collègues ce matin sont des prêts, même s'ils sont des prêts en bas du marché. L'impact sur les sociétés de la couronne est assez minime. Donc, sur le fisc, vous ne voyez pas aujourd'hui de grandes mesures fiscales qui sont nouvelles ou qui représenteraient ou porteraient atteinte à nos prévisions fiscales.
Vous avez dit à un de mes collègues qu'il faudrait un budget pour avoir une série de nouvelles mesures. Avec une campagne électorale qui est à nos portes, est-ce que ça pourrait un peu limiter ce que vous allez pouvoir faire dans le futur, ou est-ce que ça change quoi que ce soit?
Ben encore, j'hésite avant d'entrer dans des scénarios un peu hypothétiques. D'abord et avant tout, l'imposition de tarifs demeure un scénario hypothétique parce que ça semble vouloir changer à tous les jours. Mais soyons très, très clairs que nous, du côté du Parti libéral, nous croyons, s'il y a imposition de tarifs injustifiés, que nous devons venir en aide aux secteurs affectés et aux travailleurs affectés d'abord. Nos adversaires semblent penser le contraire, qu'on ne doit pas protéger ces secteurs, ces régions, ces travailleurs. Nous croyons fermement que oui, et si dans la situation hypothétique d'imposition de tarifs, élection ou non, le Parti libéral, on va certainement revendiquer l'appui pour nos travailleurs.
I recognize Gillian from Global.
Hi, ministers. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, yes, I'm Jillian Piper with Global News. Thanks for taking questions today. My question to you is that Donald Trump said in his remarks today, quote, Canada has been ripping us off for years on tariffs for lumber and for dairy products, 250%. Can I get your response to that claim?
Well, those facts are just not true.
I don't know how you can rip off Americans on lumber that they've been putting tariffs on for these many years.
Follow-up, Janelle?
Thank you for those responses. I was going to ask you as well, Minister Ng, you mentioned that you didn't hear about the most recent threat on lumber and dairy until you walked into this press conference. Do you think it's a problem that you're not hearing directly from the administration, but rather you're learning this through media reports?
Well, we hear many things every day, and what would be terrific, of course, is to have a modality for working together on issues of concern, so that we can address them together. This is something that we have been dealing with on a regular basis, and what I would say though is whatever comes from the president, we do take seriously. We must take seriously, no matter which way we learn from them. And at the same time, we will plan as we need to have the measure, to have the responses needed to protect Canadian businesses and our workers. And I am hopeful that we may get to a point where we could have a much, a little bit more of a rigor in the way that we work with the administration. We have certainly done it before, so it would, and I think from the Canadian side, we would always endeavor to try, because I think Canadians expect us to.
Lastly, Randy from Bloomberg.
Hi, do you have a limit to government spending on programs that will help Canadian workers and businesses, and what is that limit? And then another question, could you give us a number, how many jobs the government estimates are at risk right now?
Again, the answers to those questions depend on the scenario that we face. As I think I mentioned the other day, our government and our department does modeling of various scenarios, but I don't know that it's helpful to speculate about that in public. And again, as my colleague just acknowledged, we seem to be adding or subtracting new things every day, and which of course have material impacts on projections and models. So I don't know that I can help on either the fiscal side. I did answer Emilie in terms of today's announcement and what I believe is the minimal fiscal impact of these measures today. But with respect to employment and other impacts, I think we have to wait to understand just what they might have in mind.
Follow-up, Randy?
No, thank you.
Well, that concludes our press conference. We went through the whole list of journalists despite the little delay. So thank you very much, ministers. Thank you for your patience.
Merci tout le monde.
Merci
bon
tout le
week-end.
monde. Thank you.